And she lived in a $15,000 a month Trump Tower apartment until 6 months ago. This woman probably couldn't even find Sunnyside on a map until she decided to challenge me for the sake of challenging me.
Democratic Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez absolutely clobbered her primary opponent, Michelle Caruso-Cabrera, in their debate. Now, I have several clips here to show you. I will go a little deeper on some of the topics, including on healthcare, and the last clip where we get a little more into who Caruso-Cabrera actually is. But first, here's the clip where Caruso-Cabrera is attacking AOC over her opposition to the stimulus bill.
My opponent, AOC, voted against the stimulus bill. She voted against coronavirus testing. She voted against hospitals, and she voted against money for small businesses. Those are jobs.
You can ask any small business owner, especially those in Queens and the Bronx. The reason I opposed PPP is because it is structured to benefit Wall Street, the wealthy, and the rich. And it is not structured in a way to optimize outcomes for small businesses. And anyone who reads this legislation can see how toxic there were, and they were holding hospitals hostage, holding funding hostage so that the Lakers, so that Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, and so that Shake Shack could get bailouts. There are some small businesses that receive PPP, but you go to our community and you will see how many small businesses were denied, were left hanging out to dry. Oh, and by the way, you know what else is in that bill? You know what I actually voted against? A $500 billion, no strings attached Wall Street bailout for Steven Mnuchin, Donald Trump, and all of their friends. And that kind of corruption and the tolerance for it is unacceptable. By the way, that first bill cut out immigrants, ITIN payers, and it cut out American citizens married to immigrants. Now, I know Ms. Cabrera may find that acceptable, and I know that she may think that that's a good deal, but in a district that is 50% immigrant, I will never, ever leave our immigrant families behind. It is unacceptable to me.
All right, so anyone that knows anything at all about the stimulus bill knows that it prioritized big business above anybody else. I mean, Caruso-Cabrera, this is a common theme throughout this debate. Caruso-Cabrera has a particular, let's say, corporate-friendly worldview that I'll get into later on politics, which is why she has no issues with the stimulus bill. But the reality is, when you look at other countries, let's say Canada, my country, even though I have some issues with how the Liberal government here rolled out help for people, the bottom line is the Canadian government here did prioritize helping actual Canadians, people, workers, above anything else. So one of the first things they did was institute a $2,000 a month for people that were impacted by COVID-19, and also help wage subsidy for small businesses. So the focus was actually small business and individuals, and getting money, getting cash directly to people as fast as possible. Whereas in the US, the priority was helping big business first, and then still no help to the average person. $1,200 is nothing. So AOC here is exactly right. I mean, she laid it out. I don't have to go any deeper than that. The next one is on healthcare, and there is also another clear divide here between these two candidates.
My principles are always accessibility and affordability, and we do that through choice. Medicare for all is not the answer. Medicare for all is about taking health insurance away from people who already have it. Union members who have very good health insurance and actually gave up salary to have those benefits. That's what Medicare for all is about taking away their health insurance, something that's incredibly disruptive. And it's no panacea. Italy, Spain, they have pretty much Medicare for all, and thousands of people died.
I believe that healthcare should be guaranteed in the United States of America, and that is why I support single-payer Medicare for all in the United States. It is the one system, and it is the one policy that we know can actually guarantee health care And the reason that that is so important, health care is so important, is because words like accessibility and words like access to and words like choice are big pharma lobbyist code words. Because the reason we talk about, they say access and choice, is because everyone has access to buy $1,000 a month healthcare plan. Everyone has access. Even when I was a waitress 2 years ago, I had to use the Obamacare exchange. Obamacare is an enormous improvement on what there was before, which was nothing. But at the end of the day, I had to pay almost $200 a month for an $8,000 deductible on a waitress's salary. And do you know what that means? It means you don't go to the doctor. I believe that we can continue our fight and try to make sure that we mobilize everyday people to guarantee healthcare in the United States of America, because the folks that are left behind in the cracks are the same essential workers, Uber drivers, domestic workers, home healthcare aides. And by the way, yes, unions support Medicare for all because it is wrong. It is wrong to give up your wages because we only have our primary system is employer-sponsored health insurance in the United States. And in a time of 30 million people suddenly unemployed, I think we all realize how broken our current system is, and the fact that employer-dependent healthcare and health insurance, rather, is one of the least stable systems that we could have. I do not believe in expanding that system. I don't believe in even subsidizing it. I believe in changing it.
All right. Once again, AOC shows you just how out of touch and unaware Caruso-Cabrera is. If you see, or if you watch the entire debate, I'll link to it below the video. It's about an hour long. You'll see this throughout the debate. Caruso-Cabrera largely just goes for personal attacks on AOC. And even when she doesn't, even when she attempts to talk about policy, they're all slogans. Oh, accessibility, affordability to healthcare. The same BS that Democrats and Republicans have been saying for the past 40, 50, 60 years. They don't mean anything. Like, as a Canadian, watching these arguments, I literally laugh out loud, as they are the same arguments that were used against universal healthcare back in the 50s and 60s against Canada, before we had universal healthcare. So let me go through some of these dumb arguments. One here, Caruso-Cabrera talks about accessibility and affordability through choice. This is just a code word for the current private system that is already failing Americans. You have what now, over 30 million Americans newly unemployed, many of them without health insurance now that they had tied to their employer, because you have this insane idea that it's a good idea to tie health insurance to your employer. What if you want to go back to school? What if you want to change jobs? What if you don't like your boss? What if something comes up? You need to move, whatever. How does it make any sense to tie your health insurance to your employer? It's completely ridiculous. Yet still, they try to justify this system and talk about and act like it's, accessibility and affordability and freedom of choice. What freedom is there if you lose your job and you lose your health care? Or what freedom is there if you're stuck, if you change jobs and all of a sudden you can't go to your other doctor that you had because he's not in your network. He's out of network. Like, what? There's no in-network, out-of-network in a single-payer system. In a single-payer system, you all pay into a single system. That is why it is single-payer. Your Congress people would be on the same healthcare plan as you. The wealthiest people in the country be on the same healthcare plan as you. So how bad is it actually going to get? Some other dumb arguments here. Medicare for all is about taking health insurance away from people that already have it. Oh, yes, it's about taking insurance away from people, even though it guarantees universal coverage. So the argument here, or the attempt of an argument here, is saying, well, if you already have health insurance, you're going to lose that health insurance. That the health insurance that you may already have is going to be more than likely expanded. In no scenario is the health insurance you already have, are you going to get less with the Medicare for all system? There is no scenario where that is the case. You will never get less than what Medicare for all guarantees you. In fact, Medicare for all goes further than what we have in Canada because it covers stuff like dental. So a Medicare for all system would not only expand coverage for you personally if you already have health insurance, but also expand coverage to everybody else that doesn't already have health insurance. And because it is a single payer system, you all pay into it, it's a single pool, the vast majority of people pay less through their taxes in a Medicare for all system than they do to a private insurance company. Not even to mention the out-of-pocket expenses, the deductibles, all that BS is just completely gone. So just to be clear here, there are some people that would pay more under a Medicare for all system, and it is the multimillionaires, the people that are incredibly wealthy, that right now pay a tiny fraction of their wealth when it comes to healthcare compared to the rest of the U.S. because most Americans have to pay a lot more, a larger percentage of their income to healthcare than the wealthiest Americans do. So yes, people that are worth millions and millions and millions will likely pay more through their taxes under a Medicare for all system, but everybody else is paying less. Another dumb argument here. Quote, unions give up their salary to have their health insurance. The fact that she tried to use this as an argument against Medicare for all really shows you where her interests are. Unions, yes, they have to give up wages. They have to give up pay raises to get health insurance because they don't have health care guaranteed to them. So in Canada, unions don't have to bargain when it comes to health care. They don't have to argue for health care because they already have it guaranteed to them, meaning it frees unions up to use their bargaining power to maybe raise wages instead. I don't know how the hell she twisted this into an argument that is anti-Medicare for all, when a Medicare for all system would free unions up to bargain for things like higher wages. Amazing. The other argument here. Italy, Spain, thousands of people in those countries still got coronavirus and died, and they have, universal systems. This is an argument that isn't about the healthcare system. It is about the fact that pandemics are pandemics, and you can't exactly. There's not an infinite amount of doctors and hospitals, regardless of what healthcare system you have. So if you don't address a pandemic fast enough in terms of keeping people indoors and not spreading the virus around, then yes, at some point it can overwhelm the system, regardless of what the system is. But what's the other argument here? So is Caruso-Cabrera arguing to open up thousands and thousands and thousands more hospitals just in case there's going to be a pandemic again in 30 years? Open up all these hospital beds that will never be used ever, just in case there's going to be a massive pandemic. Now, there is, of course, an argument. Yes, you got to put more money into healthcare, of course. But at some point, you can't just have an infinite amount of hospital beds. The real way to deal with the pandemic is to react as quickly as possible. And you're even seeing, she brings up Italy and Spain as if they're doing work. The American system, Americans, US, they are doing much worse right now during the coronavirus than Italy or Spain. So there was a point where Italy was doing horribly, and it's gotten better. The system has reacted. They've reacted. It's gone down. Right now, in the US, you're still seeing increases, massive increases, when it comes to people getting the virus. Again, this is separate from the healthcare system because it is a pandemic and how the governments react to the pandemic in terms of keeping people at home. Good God. Let's go to the last clip here. This is where AOC just absolutely clobbers Caruso-Cabrera, and we'll also get into a little more of who Caruso-Cabrera actually is.
I'm very interested to hear her talk about the air and the water, because she always said about her predecessor, he doesn't drink our water, he doesn't breathe our air. And yet she does the same thing. She doesn't come home. AOC is MIA. She wasn't breathing the air here when she stayed in her apartment for a full week, her luxury apartment in DC with a Whole Foods in the lobby at the height of the crisis when Congress wasn't in session.
While it's disappointing to see Ms. Caruso-Cabrera fixated on personal attacks and for some strange reason obsessed with the 6 days in March that I wasn't feeling well and had to stay in my apartment, I do think it's quite funny that she goes on and on about the fact that I have to live, that frankly, that I spend time in doing my job in Washington and coming home to the Bronx when she lived in a $15,000 a month Trump Tower apartment until 6 months ago. This woman probably couldn't even find Sunnyside on a map until she decided to challenge me for the sake of challenging me. She doesn't care about the Bronx. She doesn't care about Queens. She cares about running for running. No one's ever seen this person before. Who are you? Like, where is your family from? No, where have you lived? You are no one has seen you in this community before. And while I know you have multi-millionaires that finance your campaign, and you're financed by the same real estate developers and big banks that would profit from the corruption in Washington and adding one more notch to their belt, I don't think it's important for us to do that. I don't think it's okay for us to do that.
I don't even know what to call that. It was just a total massacre of Caruso-Cabrera. And I'm going to get into a little more here of who Caruso-Cabrera is. I just got to mention, it is amazing to me that she would bring up AOC living in Washington, D.C., where there's a Whole Foods in the lobby, when she herself lived in a $15,000 Trump Tower apartment. Are you kidding me? $15,000 a month? How much money is this woman worth? Now, let me go into some of the reporting on this. This is from The Intercept. Before Michelle Caruso-Cabrera launched a conservative primary challenge against Democratic Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in New York, she was on the board of directors of GWG Holdings, a life settlement company that makes money off life insurance policies purchased primarily from seniors, the terminally ill, and those unable to afford it for less than face value, turning a profit when the beneficiary dies. So, Caruso-Cabrera works for a company, or is on the board of directors of a company where they literally make money off of people dying. That is literally what she did. More here. In September 2018, Caruso-Cabrera left her full-time position as an anchor at CNBC to join the board of directors at Beneficient Group, a Dallas-based company that lends money to ultra-wealthy Americans who need it fast by turning non-liquid assets into cash. Beneficient is funded by GWG Holdings, a Minneapolis-based life insurance investor that poured nearly $1 billion into the company in a 2018 transaction. So this is who Caruso-Cabrera is. She is a candidate of the wealthy. She is challenging AOC because AOC stands up for workers, one of the few voices in Congress that do. Not to say everything AOC ever does is perfect. Of course not. I've had disagreements or criticisms of AOC's strategy at points, especially when it comes to Pelosi. I think AOC is way too soft on Pelosi. But when it comes to comparing her to Caruso-Cabrera, I mean, like, get out of town. And there's more here, by the way. So while AOC is backed by working class voters, meaning no corporate money, no PACs, AOC just, small dollar donors, working class voters, Caruso-Cabrera, let's see where she gets her money from. Caruso-Cabrera's campaign quickly picked up support among corporate interests, receiving early donations from dozens of prominent private equity executives and investment bankers, as The Intercept previously reported. Notably, her bid is being backed by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, a powerful conservative lobbying group that has poured millions into electing Republicans. Caruso-Cabrera was herself a Republican until a few years ago. There you go. Caruso-Cabrera is a Republican, or, I guess if you want to be super fair, a conservative corporate Democrat. That is why a lot of her answers, if you watch the full, even just these clips, but if you watch the full debate, you could basically replace Caruso-Cabrera's answers for Joe Manchin. Just put Joe Manchin in her place, and the answers will sound largely the same. Or even you could put some Republicans in her place, and they'll sound largely the same. Because Caruso-Cabrera is not standing up for people. She is standing up for big business. And most of this debate was her trying to smear AOC with BS that had nothing at all to do with policy. And then when she actually was forced to maybe discuss policy for a second, it was all slogans and no actual details. Caruso-Cabrera is just a total fake, and AOC, I think, clearly exposed her throughout this debate.